Anybody that would invite me to a wisdom council, my family would laugh them into the ground. So I was like, it's worth checking out.
You know, how lucky is that? that we were chosen randomly by, by accident, per se. So we're extremely lucky. I feel that we're all lucky.
The more I thought about it, the more I was like, maybe I can make a difference, so I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I said yes. I'm glad I came. This has definitely been a very enriching experience, a very thought-provoking experience, and I love it.
When I didn't get the letter, I got a call from Susan first, and then she said that the time commitment, and my first response in that was like, oh my gosh, I've got all these things I need to do, and blah blah blah. I've got this busy life as anybody else, and so there was that part of me, and then the other part was like, well, this is really a civic opportunity, and if you really believe all the things that you say you believe, then this is the opportunity to actually step up and do something with that. And I think that when you're asking me about how you can get people involved, is to say, how many times do you say, I wish I could, wish I had somebody who listened to me. I wish I could voice my opinion in a way that people will hear. And this is a way that, not just these 8 people, but y'all and the cameras and everybody else hears this. And so in sitting with that for a little while, I thought, oh, this is really important. I really need to not decide that my time is just mine and not be that selfish person and step forward and participate.
I am very engaged in government already and have been. And I see the disconnect. And the question has always been in my mind, how can we engage people so they become part of the process rather than just vote and think they've done it all? And so when I saw this, I thought, this is a wonderful opportunity to explore that so that I can learn how to talk to my friends and neighbors about being more engaged and more involved in the process. And I believe in the notion of consensus. I think it's a far better way to operate than democracy, quite frankly, because when you take a vote, somebody always loses. Somebody's always on the losing side. Whereas if we operate in the context of consensus, it's a win-win solution that we arrive at. And that's what makes this process, I believe, so valuable. I don't think any one of us here feel like our voices were not heard. And now the decisions that come up may not necessarily be what that person would choose on their own, but their voice was heard and it was weighed along with everything else, and it shaped the decision that was made. And so I believe in this kind of a process, and I think it's valuable. I would love to see this spread like wildfire across this land.
Awesome. Say that.
Everything had in common was this loss of hope. And there was a lot of different aspects of that and thoughts around that, but ultimately the one that we began to work with was the idea that there was no collective vision. And so there was nothing calling us forward in a complete way. Everything, there's this special interest and this special interest and this special interest, and no way to really bring them all together. There's nobody with a vision who's actually calling everybody forward. And not in politics, not in society, not anywhere. And one of the things that we were really discussing a lot of is that we've gone to a me kind of society. So everybody's in it for themselves, and not so much because there's a lot of selfish people, but because there's really no support for being in it for everybody else. And there's not that sort of consensus that you help your neighbor and your neighbor helps you, and you contribute to society and society helps you. And that's kind of fallen by the wayside. And so what we were dreaming of was a more caring society where was based in love, based in compassion, and not necessarily based in everything having solely a monetary value. Because that was one of our things, is that as money shifted upward, access shifted upward, and regular people no longer had access to government, to a lot of the things in society that you really need to have a meaningful life. And so we were looking at shifting to a society based on caring, compassion, honoring one another, values like that, rather than everything always being, you know, this person's worth this much because that's how much they make. And some people, since they're takers, as opposed to taxpayers, that they're somehow draining society and that they didn't have gifts to contribute. And so that whole dynamic and change was something that we wanted to see in this caring society.
Doesn't seem to work in the time it needs to happen. Now, I don't believe we can rely on business as usual. And I believe in the capacity, if we get together in processes like this and other processes, that something happens between people because we want to move forward together. It's not about being right. It's not about winning. It's about coming together and taking the time, creating the space, and creating the conditions that something can happen between us and something can evolve. And this is new. Babylon didn't have it, Greece didn't have it, Rome didn't have it. To talk about what is happening, and it doesn't matter who's on the table, whether it's a rich or poor person, a young or older person, to get these different people together and really get these different perspectives together and be able to create something together.